want you to join me, if you will, in a thought experiment, an imagination trip, if you will. I want you to picture that you are an employee with a largish employer. A largish employer. You come in and you start your shift every day, as is so common in current times. You come in and you start your shift by logging on to your computer terminal, wherever that might be, whether it be in a cubicle or in an office or at your workstation. And immediately upon logging in, you begin to get your email notifications, and also on the company's website for employees, other notifications begin to pop up. Now, this is every day. This is nearly consistently every shift that you work. And in and amongst all of the email notifications you get from fellow employees and managerial types to corporate executives communicating new policies and new practices, in and amongst all of those are notifications from your corporate human resources department. And the emails and the website all direct you to different types of training that they're offering for everyone right now. And in those offerings are things like a classroom environment for people of color only, for black people only. And these are described as safe spaces for people of color and for black employees to go and to talk about how they have been drastically impacted by the white supremacy of their coworkers. How the society in which they live has drastically impacted them and caused them great emotional and psychological harm, and how to process that. There are other reminders for you as you open up your emails and check your company's employee website, that there will be offerings of safe spaces for everyone to go to learn about implicit bias of whites, Christian privilege, heterosexual privilege, white heterosexual privilege, white fragility. And even in some of those emails and notifications on the website, it is said that these classroom environments where whites are allowed to go, they're not going to be allowed to ask questions or to offer their thoughts. It is only a place for them to go to sit and listen and learn how to be an ally of the homosexual, or LGBTQ plus community, or the black community, or the people of color community. This is every day. Now imagine, if you will, that this is happening in almost every place of employment in the United States today. Imagine being told, as reports are coming into me, that these are going to be required. And not only are they going to be required, that you will not be allowed to ask questions for clarification. You will not be allowed to voice any concern about this indoctrination. This is happening every day. This, my friends, is social Marxism. This is the fruit of critical theory, whether it be critical race theory, or it be critical sexual theory, or critical feminist theory. This is happening in almost every major employer-employee environment today. Now, you might be watching this and saying to yourself, well, gee, Todd, what's the problem with this? I mean, shouldn't we all be against bigotry? Shouldn't we all be against racism? Shouldn't we all be against bias? I agree 100%. As I recently released a video here a couple of weeks ago that said, I hate people who support ethnic hatred. But the message that is being sent through human resource departments across the United States right now is a message of towing the line. It's not a message of, can we all learn, as the great Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. said, and in many different ways, but so profoundly said, I long for the days where men are not judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. What critical race theory, what critical sexual theory, what critical feminist theory has done is it has stopped that dream of Dr. Martin Luther King, and it has instead reversed that dream. So that today, now, instead of judging people by the content of their character, we are now judging them based on their skin color. I recently had a conversation with a young man who was forced out of his employment because he wouldn't admit that he was a racist. The evidence of this was that when they asked him to confess his racism, he said, I don't have anything to confess. I'm not a racist. I had a conversation with another young lady not too long ago who said that she is being forced out of her job because when they told her she had to go take these critical race theory trainings through the Human Resources Department, she said, that's fine, I'll go, but I'm going to ask questions. And this young lady happens to be a Christian. And she was told she would not be allowed to ask any questions for clarification's sake. I was privy to a conversation with another young man who told me that he is being forced to go to one of these trainings and that he is studying all that he can about critical race theory, critical sexual theory, and critical feminist theory, and intersectionality, so that he can show not only that it is a vile poison, but that it is also Marxist and socialistic in its roots. But why? Because this is the means by which the Marxists are taking over almost every place of employment. We have been watching and waiting, in many respects, for the next big attack on the United States. We have been watching and waiting for the next enemy to fly an airplane into a building or to invade us from outside of the United States, when the problem is that the enemy is rising up from within. Marxists have taken over our centers of education, our universities and our colleges, and even our community colleges. Marxists have educated other teachers, they have educated other administrators within school environments to be Marxist, and they don't even know about their Marxism. They've just been inundated with this. It's an environment that they've lived in. It's been absorbed almost as if by osmosis. And now this is permeated into the government school systems at the K through 12 level. Black Lives Matter has a school curriculum where children are being inundated with the Marxist material of Black Lives Matter and Antifa. Children are taught at schools now to be anti-capitalist. Children are being taught to hate people based on the shade of their skin. And you'd say, well, we're not teaching anybody to hate white people. You're teaching white people to hate themselves. People may call this extreme. They may consider this to be a radical video. And I'm okay with that. I despise ethnic hatred. I despise racism. I have renounced it in society for as long as I can remember. But I hate it all. I hate any indoctrination. I hate any material that teaches anybody that one particular ethnicity is implicitly evil just for no other reason than their pigmentation. I despise any level of education that says you must confess your racism because you must confess your bigotry because you must confess your misogyny because you are. And there's this tool that's being utilized that's referred to as the Kafka trap. You might be familiar with this in that you've maybe taken an analytical test to determine placement for a job or your suitability for a particular job, and one of the questions that'll be asked is, do you beat your wife or your spouse? And then they'll ask that question and later on, do you still beat your spouse? If you answer no, you're admitting that you did at one time beat your spouse. If you answer yes, you're admitting that you still beat your spouse. That's the Kafka trap. There is no way for you to answer that question without accusing yourself. That's what's being done to people all over the United States today. Admit that you're a white supremacist. Well, I'm not. Aha. You're denying your white supremacy, therefore you are a white supremacist. This has to end. It's time for people of every ethnicity, from every culture, to stand up and say, we will not treat each other this way, nor will we be treated this way. We have gone generations fighting for people to be recognized and treated as equals. And now what's happening in this culture war is that we are doing our level best to pit each other against one another based on their ethnicity. If this keeps up, it will not end well. I don't want to see that. We have got to stop treating each other this way. I would no more want to see this happen to someone I don't know than I would want to see it happen to someone I love. I will not believe a single person is a racist. I will not believe a single person is a bigot or a misogynist or guilty of misandry until I actually see them doing it. I want the evidence. And the color of your skin, the fact that you're male, the fact that you're heterosexual does not make you a bigot, does not make you a racist, does not make you a sexist. Those things are only evident in people who act that way. And someone who says, I am not X, Y, or Z, should be taken at face value. If this is how we're going to treat each other, now, at a time when supposedly our country has made leaps in bounds of improvement, imagine what it would be like if we reversed the course and we went back 50 or 60 years. We've got to stop this before our country burns, because that's what's happening right now. We are not guilty just because someone says we are. Learn what critical race theory is. Learn what critical sexual theory is. Learn what critical feminist theory is. Learn what intersectionality is. And then, when you're faced with it, refute it. Do so respectfully. Do so gently. Do it with kindness. But reject it. It's a poison, and it will destroy this country for everyone.